Hi, I'm Ronnie from Ronnie's Garage, and we are holding our monthly tech meet at my garage. We're going to get into this S1 steering box. This is actually off a 58 S1 Flying Spur.
And the mystery washer has no such numbering on it?
Sorry?
The mystery washer has no such numbering on it?
Not that I can see. You might be able to see one. I can't see one. This is a little tight. Usually just slide right off of there. So what you've got here, see there's a 2C on that. You've got this thrust bearing in there, and that's because you want the center shaft to turn. It has a bunch of little springs, and then this sits against on the, and they are what hold the spool valve in its proper position. We'll get it apart a little further so you can see. This should come right out of there. One piece. There we go. All right. So here's a centering washer. Here's your spool valve. Right there. And then you've got these, they're concave brass washers, and they should be numbered. This is 4V, I think. Oh, 3V. V3. I think he's got these backwards there. 4V. Now, if you look at these, when they assemble this, they tell you the direction. You got V3 and V4, right? And then they have a number there, and that's the thickness of the, and it has the V4 plus the thickness of the shim, and it should match that.
Now, is there something indicating which okay, but the 4 and the 3 is...
Yeah, I'm going to look at the book.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure that the 4 is way out here.
Okay.
So he's got that valve in backwards,
Yes.
which will affect the assist in the directions because they're centered. And that centering process is difficult. I built a tool to figure out how to do that. And the way, we got some more of these little pins in here. These are just solid pins. So if you see these springs and these big washers that sit against here, right? For the assist to be activated, this valve has to move ever so slightly, a few thousandths. That's all it takes. Because in the center position, it blocks off all these passages in here and just lets it fluid flow, no pressure. As soon as you move it off center, it's going to build pressure and go to the appropriate direction for the ram. And to center these is very hard. The way it moves is when your steering is hooked to the wheels and the ground, there's a lot of resistance here. And as soon as you start to turn that, the pressure on this thing, it'll make it move one direction or the other, depending which direction you want to go. So that's what moves these a few thousandths maximum to send the fluid in the right directions. You still have the mechanical turning here, but you have that booster out front that just assists it. And to center these, I built a tool. It's over there. It's kind of archaic and haphazard, but it works. And what I did is I took a steering pump with an electric motor, power steering pump, electric motor, and 3 gauges. So I have the main gauge, pressure coming in, right? And then I have the 2 directions. So when I have that all hooked up and I'm trying to center one of these, which is a pain in the ass, just so you know, what I do is I have my gauges set up, it's running, neutral position, it's fine, and then I clamp this. See, I have the steering arm here that I mount to this, and then I secure it so it doesn't move in the center position, so it's solid. And then I take a very lightweight torque wrench out here, and I'll torque it to a certain, you know, a few foot-pounds. and then I'll read the gauge in that direction. Then I'll go a few foot-pounds the other way, and I'll read the gauge in that. And if they're not even, then the valve is not centered. I got a big reservoir here, because when it's running, and you know, you're pumping fluid and you spill it and all that, there's a little electric motor here, and an old steering pump off of a Jaguar. And then I have hoses that go to the appropriate. So I have the high pressure one going in, the high pressure in. The return goes to a big hose that goes back into this reservoir, and then this will be the two directions. And as I said, I'll clamp this pitman arm with that Mickey Mouse tool I have there, so it's solid in the center position. It's critical to be in the center position. And then I'll take a real small torque wrench and turn it in each direction. It shouldn't turn. All you're going to be doing is putting pressure on this shaft here, which will pull against this, which isn't going to move. So you're going to be moving this valve back and forth with the two directions. And I use a torque wrench so I make sure I get the same amount of pressure input to see what the output pressure is. And then I got to make those match. So then it's the process of going through spare shims, which I have a few, and trying to get the right shim on this side and this side to move it the appropriate direction a few thousandths. And if you don't have the right shims, then you got to worry about getting it too thick so you don't get enough movement. So then you got to play with the pressure on that. So it's difficult. I've done it, and I've fixed cars that way. There's another housing there. Here's the opposite thrust bearing with all its springs and all that. And it should be numbered too. This is V4. I think it's got them backwards. But we'll see. And there should be, and there is another shim here. So now we're really getting into trouble, because that shim may not even belong to this thing. So it's always oh, go ahead.
The spool valve stack up, then the overall length, that has to remain the same. Say you had a 28, if you had a 30, you got to subtract 2 from the others.
Right.
So you got to have a large selection of
right.
washers.
Yeah.
Or a surface grinder.
And it's right. Or a belt sander and tough fingertips.
And a strong religious belief.
That's all right. Clear. You tell everybody clear when you get started there. These thrust washers are pretty close fit.
Is there a burr on that shaft?
There could be on the end, because that's where it tightens down. Probably. See, this should be a C. Yeah. This should be a C2. And it could be interpreted that way, but there is a number on that. And if you look at this washer, it just doesn't match the other ones, really. So there is one more washer on this, just so you know. Let's get it further apart and I'll show you. That goes there, right? I don't want to mix these up, but all right. Let's go ahead and get the top off.
Once you get it all fixed, so you're going to ship, you package it up and ship it back to them?
Yeah.
Imagine you have to wrap it up carefully and...
C2.
Yeah, I did that with that other one. I put it in a box.
Okay, this is the C2. Where do you want to put this?
That goes way over here. So, if I assume that this washer doesn't belong to this box, and the box didn't work right after he put it together, that's upside down. I'm pretty sure, because that starts with a C2, I'm pretty sure it's V3 and then V4. So he put that in backwards, which is why it would go more one way than the other. It's off center.
What increments of shims come in? 1,000s, 2,000s?
If you can find them, buy as many as you can get.
What
I don't know.
Okay. I'm just wondering how
the books, the shop manual cover doing this, but the 2 and 3, they just say send to factory.
Yeah.
And you know what the factory will do today, right?
Send it around.
Send it right back.
Right.
You're on your own.
You mean they wouldn't touch it?
No, the factory doesn't support older cars anymore.
So what I'm thinking is, what's how this is this is $11.
All right, here's the top side.
Those for you?
Now, you see,
You shouldn't have to take that off for the problem that you identified with this. This is the problem, right? This section.
well, there's the problem, but we have this extra shim, and I want to see if I can find, it might be on the end of this shaft.
Oh, okay.
You can't get the shaft out until you pull the pitman arm out, plus I'm going to go through the whole thing anyways. This is the upper bearing for the pitman arm. Now watch out, we're going to get a little shower here because it's full of fluid. And this thing sat on his shop floor for a couple years, and it still has fluid, still drips. This is your pitman, and this is the roller that goes against that worm gear. See the worm gear there?
There was a my wife dropped
Yeah.
it.
So as far as the play in the steering, when you go off center, the further off center you go, the more play there is in this. So it's only tight in the very center.
Does he have transmission oil in this thing?
Yeah, that's appropriate fluid.
It's just